I could literally start immediately.
A wee mo-wit.
I could start immediately.
A wee mo-wit.
How you like that, dude?
A wee mo-wit.
We on, baby.
France dragged us into this to the point
I had
that's
no idea.
like, oh, France owned Vietnam.
Mhm.
It was a colony. Japan took it when they got a little wild.
Yeah.
And then the United States liberated it.
Okay.
And that was the thing. Ho Chi Minh, the guy who ended up being the leader of the Viet Cong, was like, I love America.
That's
he was
right.
Like, he was
That's right.
He was writing letters to Truman
That's
saying
right.
like, I love you. Thank you. They were like, Americans are the only free people on earth.
Yes.
These are incredible people. The leader of them
Yeah.
loved America.
Yeah.
And then he started, this is the craziest part. So France goes back in after the war and is like, we're taking it back. And America was like,
Come on.
don't do that.
Yeah.
And we were kind of siding with Ho Chi Minh and the Vietnamese. And then France was like, this is the beginning of the Cold War. So France is like, hey, if you guys don't support us, maybe we'll start listening to fucking Russia. And then America was like, all right, we'll fucking help you out.
Damn.
Anyway.
That is interesting. And by the way, speaking of Ho Chi Minh writing letters to Truman, all those letters were redacted and till 1970 something.
And half of them Truman never got because the Secret Service was like,
Wow.
he
I
doesn't
didn't
need
know
to
that.
see these. Yeah.
Yeah, making those decisions.
It's almost
In
like
those days, everybody made, but that's the whole thing about Vietnam too. Everybody's making their own decisions, determining. So the when you have power, when you disperse power in that way, everybody goes, I'll take this part. And they're all just like,
And because of the Cold War, the Secret Service and the CIA were like, this is more important. Like the CIA versus the KGB in Russia and the Soviet Union, that became the two superpowers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they were doing stuff like undermining the fucking president to be like, the war against Russia is more. I mean, I don't like Vietnam because of how frustrating and stupid it is.
Well, but first of all, the CIA, when you think about it, their whole thing was the Cold War first. So all the drug dealing that happened in the 70s and 80s was again from every cartel. The CIA, when they're like, okay, CIA, they would stop the DEA from doing their job all the time because they're like, the Cold War, these are anti-communists, but they're the heads of the cartels, but they're anti-communists, and that was their priority. So they made that choice, and I'm sure the president didn't want to make the choice, whoever it was during all those times, but that was the choice they always made.
Damn. Then they did the Just Say No 10 years later. And like, come on, guys, don't do drugs.
Just say no, but just say no.
So funny.
They were still telling the DEA, back off this guy, back off that guy.
It's so funny.
Because they were saying, look, we think communism is a greater threat. Still in the late 80s. It's crazy.
They were right. We got a tiny taste of it here, and it's pretty annoying.
Communism does fucking blow.
Good point.
Yeah,
Especially when the communists are rich and 30 years old.
Yeah.
And getting DUIs. You see Nancy Pelosi's husband? He's 82 and caught a DUI. Anyway.
Well, I think somebody 82 catching a DUI, I admire that.
I do too.
Yeah.
I mean,
That should be free. That should be let you go on that.
All right. We're getting off topic. So,
True.
yeah.
Vietnam, the French. The French are fucking dickheads.
Dude. Brutal.
They were dickheads.
So they dragged us in. They
absolutely dragged us in.
Hid the
Well,
letters.
they dragged us in, but we wanted into. I mean, we could have left. We could have left 10. We could have left. I mean, I read this book, A Bright Shining Light. I just happened to be reading it. By the way, whenever you read a book, especially a Kindle, try to find out how many pages it is. First.
Oh, yeah.
This book's 800 pages. Fuck. So I was reading it like, oh, this is A Bright Shining Light. Doesn't sound like a long book.
Yeah.
It's the history of everything. But France, they left. We helped them. So there was what turned Ho Chi Minh. One of the things that turned him is we supplied France with all these all the mortars and everything where they destroyed a lot of it in Vietnam, and that turned them against America too. Ho Chi Minh,
It was there was a battle. I forget the name of it. So I was just watching the Ken Burns on it. What is it?
Dien Bien Phu.
Yes. So the French were kind of fucking up the Vietnamese.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was the same as us versus them. They had superior firepower. But again, just like time and time again, the Vietnamese were very good at guerrilla warfare because we trained them during World War II.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, little fucking, Mujahideen type shit.
Yeah.
And they were about to come to talks. France and Vietnam, they were about to come to the table. Before they went to have talks, they both tried to get one more offensive in, so they had leverage when they went to talks.
Nice.
So France sets up at what's it, Bien
Few, yeah.
They just put themselves at the bottom of this valley, and they're like, "We're just going to build an airfield here. We're going to fuck them up." One of the French generals was like, "I have too many guns. We're going to fuck these dudes up."
Damn.
And the Vietnamese surrounded them in this valley and just destroyed them. The French guy, the general that led that, killed himself honorably because he was like, "We're going to wipe the floor with these guys."
Why'd they go in a valley? Isn't that a bad? I'm not a military tactician, but isn't that like not the good idea?
Yeah, it was a bad idea.
Well, it's funny you say that because even Khe Sanh, the famous 14 years later, America did the same thing. Set themselves up was surrounded by all the mountains, so created a valley and set up an airstrip, a landing strip in the valley, and got killed because of it.
Damn.
I mean, it's really amazing. I mean, the other thing about Vietnam is you realize how you always think when you're young, at least, like the people in charge, they spend all their time doing this. They know what they're doing. But there were so many egos involved that the few people who were like, this is not working, they were just like, stop.
Yeah.
You don't know what you're saying. Just because of ego. People think, their motive was they wanted money. They would still get the money. This was about like something else, a power struggle where you pay the price or the troops pay the price.
Oh, it sucks. Yeah, if you're just some dude sitting in a village and some guy had an argument and you're just getting blown up and you're like, what the fuck is this about?
And the other thing they had
some
was
guy couldn't come to grips with it. He was like, no, fuck it, I'm right.
in the early 60s, they had this Hamlet program where they said, we're going to bring all these weapons to each hamlet, all these little hamlets, because it was kind of half and half, like North Korea. Mm-hmm. And they brought all these weapons to all these hamlets and said, look, you're in charge of the weapons. And it was all American-made modern stuff. And, of course, the Viet Cong, who kind of controlled, more or less, they had the hearts of the people, they took all the weapons. So we supplied the Viet Cong with all these weapons in the early 60s, and it kept them going.
It genuinely makes me like all my information's from the Ken Burns documentary,
right?
And I watch it, and every time I'm watching it, by episode 2, I'm like, "What the fuck is going?" Like it doesn't make sense. Well,
I don't know if this was in the Ken Burns documentary, but did you see the guy? It is. I think it is. I saw the Ken Burns. Is Beckwith, the guy an advisor, Colonel Beckwith?
Oh yeah,
Sergeant Charlie Beckwith. And he goes, they interview him and he go, what do you think of the Viet Cong? He goes, finest soldiers I've ever seen. This is in 1965.
Yeah.
What?
He goes, what? The Viet Cong. He goes, best soldiers I've ever, I wish I had 200 of them under my command. And right away, you're like, we should have realized something was up then.
Well, they'd been fighting for 30 years. Mm-hmm. These dudes have been fighting since like World War II. They didn't stop fighting.
Really?
From World War II until the end of Vietnam, they were fighting constantly.
And their home territory.
Yeah.
And they're so small, they had to be crafty. All the tunnels, all the trails, they know everything.
Oh, fuck, yeah.
You know?
Was that the first American war where like the American troops were like, what's the point of this? The first
I think
time
Korea, I'm sure they were a little bit like, actually.
Yeah, Korea, MacArthur screwed up Korea.
Yeah.
MacArthur, everybody was like, don't do this. MacArthur's like, the people loved him.
Yeah.
The Korean people like, this guy's our savior. And he just was like a king over there.
Yeah.
And then he just said, we're going to do it this way. I forget, he landed on the coast. So he did something that was strategically a nightmare. And even his generals were like, don't do this. What are you doing? And he goes, I know what I'm doing. And
yeah, that guy, he had a fucking ego, dude.
That stinks.
He referred to himself in the third person.
Did he?
Was fucking nuts. Yeah, he was wild. MacArthur was wild.
That sucks.
He might get a bad rap, though. I kind of like him.
Yeah, no, he was beloved. Look, the people loved him because Japan loved him because after World War II, they were expecting, because they were so horrendous during World War II, they expected him to really bear down, and he treated them like, he said, you treat these people like human beings. So Japanese people treat him like a god. So he felt like a god.
That's tough to shake off. That would get me.
Yeah.
If I was getting like samurai glory, I'd be like, yeah, you know what?
I know. Even
Dudes like presenting you swords and
you
shit.
get to wear one of those cool suits. If I had to wear one of those cool suits, I'm like, who do I?
I think that's why God never even let me sell out like the Beacon or something like that. He keeps me at a level of 300 to 400 seats on the road, and there's a reason for it.
Oh man.
So what was it? So chronologically, the French so we were like boys.
So it was a French colony. Then there's World War II.
Yeah.
Japan takes over, and like always when Japan would invade, all the Asian countries were like, nice, finally the fucking white colonists are gone.
Yeah.
We're gonna get treated well, and they immediately get starved to death and beheaded and fucked with.
It sucks.
So then when the Americans liberated Vietnam, and the British, whoever, they were like, fuck yeah, we love America. Then France after World War II, who just got their fucking ass whooped,
Yeah.
they're like, actually, we want those colonies back.
Nice.
Yeah.
And, and Vietnam was like, no, this is ours now.
Yeah.
We're independent again. So then
Do they have to write a letter to Vietnam like, hey, buddy,
we're coming back.
bad news?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, sorry. We should start chronologically.
Yeah.
Let you. All
What
I
year?
watch is fucking Ken Burns.
What? Oh, what are we talking about? Well,
I
yeah.
don't know. Whatever you want.
What you said, and then France, when they lost, you know what I mean, the Geneva talks. Geneva, I think it was the first Geneva talk back then. Maybe not, but then
That was the best one.
was that
That was
probably
the best one. First team was
we
the
were like,
best.
hey, I like Geneva, and then we went in. Eisenhower said, we're just going to arm them in the 50s. We're just going to keep arming them because we don't want communism to spread down there. And then because China, they were about China taking over Vietnam, but Vietnam wasn't worried because they were half communist. Like you said, by that point, Ho Chi Minh was pro-American until that horrible event where the France destroyed like all these innocent villages, and then he turned on America because we supplied France. They didn't have
Fair enough.
In Bien Dien Phu,
Bien Bien Phu is when they got cocky.
America started supplying France
Mhm.
because the only way the French could get anything was airdrops
Yeah.
because they were in a fucking valley getting destroyed. Like 8,000 French dudes died.
Jesus.
Again, though, the Vietnamese lost like 3-1 casualties, but they were like, "That's a victory."
Yeah. That's
They
what
would get fucking wiped out constantly.
Yeah. That was. What was that one quote? Like, all we have to do is just stay here and just die.
I mean, yeah,
That was one of the Vietnamese soldiers. Like, all we have to do is just not become extinct, and we win. And I was like,
It's great.
"Yeah, that's tough."
Well, that's
That
the
sucks.
problem with everything, right? I mean, anytime you go anywhere, the people that live there, they have nowhere to go.
Yeah.
So they're like, well, you're trapped. A trapped rat is going to fight to the death.
Yeah.
so
But then, yeah.
it got to the point where they're talking about like the United States was literally funding 80% of the French versus Vietnamese war. We were giving France 80% of the budget to
Damn.
win the war. Yeah,
Yeah.
France sucks.
France did a bad job, and then they left, and then we decided it's such a weird. I look at it so like psychologically, like what I understand about the domino theory was part of it, but
Yeah.
the psychological mindset you put yourself into. There was this guy Harkins, the general. He was the guy that ran it. He is really responsible in many ways because we go back and tell the president and these guys it's going good, but even then, the presidents, the ambassadors, they all went along. It just goes to show. I mean, I quote my mother all the time. I rest her soul, but she used to always say, "People," and I see this deeper and deeper in everything. And this is a perfect example. People are attracted to bullshit, and if you offer them something that's quality or truthful and bullshit, they go for the bullshit every time. And I said to my mother at the time, I go, "That's true most of the time." She goes, "I didn't say most of the time. I said every time." And Vietnam's a perfect example because he was this guy Van. This whole book, Bright Shining Lights, about this guy Van. It was in Vietnam he was the early guy, and he's like, "Look, we're gonna lose. Here's what's happening. The Hamlets, we're giving away our guns. The communists are taking. We're bombing village. We were search and destroy in 1963."
Jesus.
And he goes, "We're losing everybody. We got to either win them over through like social revolution, the corruption of the South Vietnamese. They're taking everything. Their special forces that we trained are destroying people. This is terrible. We're losing." And everybody, even the people that kind of knew better, just went like, "Oh." And then somebody else like, "No, we're just going to do this." And they're like, "Okay, let's do that." And it wasn't that it was easier. And they almost like will themselves into like, if you've ever been involved in like a TV or movie project, right? And everyone's sitting there and you start out going, "It's got to be this." And then slowly you start to go, "Oh yeah, no that." And then somebody that wasn't involved in the first month walks in and goes, "Are you guys all gone crazy?" And yes, you have. And
No
that's
one
what
wants
I
to
feel
say
like.
it sucks. They're like, "No, this is good."
You start to believe it.
Yeah.
You get in this stupor. And that's what I think happened in Vietnam with our military.
I mean,
You're on the set of Aquaman 6 and you're like, "This still's good.
this might be
Yes.
the best picture.
And you ever go to a screening of a movie?
No.
And then I've gone to screenings of movies,
Mhm.
and you'll sit there and be like, "That movie was really good." If you're around the movie,
Sure,
and
yeah.
you know the cast, you know for the
Yeah,
people,
yeah,
you're like, "It was good, it was bad." And then if I've been with people that go, are you crazy, Dad? We should. And then later, I'm like, I was in a state of temporary insanity. And I feel like that's what happened. For
Also,
years.
the domino effect bothers me. It just annoys me.
You don't
It's
like dominoes?
Obviously,
You don't like-
Obviously, I crush dominoes.
No, you don't. I'll tell you, you don't like. You don't like that slippery slope theory. That's basically the domino effect,
Yeah.
right? I agree. I don't like it.
When it comes to why we were in Vietnam, was they were like, well, if China's influence and the Soviet influence gets Vietnam, they're going to get all of Southeast Asia. And it's like, so?
Well, but at the time, Russia had just taken all of Eastern Europe in the early 50s.
All right,
But I'll take
Vietnam.
It's fine now.
What the fuck happened? What happened?
Vietnam?
Yes.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It was. I said it was a weird narcotic state where it's been kind of a thing after World War II. It's gone now, but where we're like, no, we don't really fail. Everybody wants this because it works so well. Not just World War II, the Marshall Plan even worked because we're dealing with all these countries and suddenly they're coming back. By 1960s, 50s, Germany's even back. So we're like the benign guys that we control things, but everybody's kind of like getting their thing who wants to be on the team. And then, we didn't realize there was a whole undercurrent. So like the overcurrent is Europe, then the undercurrent is the colonies. So all the colonies were rebelling starting in the late 50s.
Oh, yeah.
From Africa to, South America. And, so there was that whole thing going on,
The vacay spots were popping
There was so much going on. Isn't it weird?
All the sandals.
The sandals resorts.
All the sandals resorts where they've had it up to here.
Yeah.
That makes
So
sense.
it was kind of a weird, it was an interesting time.
I can see communism appealing to that.
Yeah.
You're down
Of
there.
You
course.
guys share the fucking daiquiris.
Pissing
dude.
around the cheese.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, like Cuba, look at Cuba with the whole mafia thing, and it was such an interesting thing where it was like, they letting all these capitalist things, and then they were like, no, and Castro came in, and you know what I mean? They, even though Cuba failed, they didn't like the corruption level that was going on. The same thing with South Vietnam.
Yeah. That was the thing. We propped up some fucking dumbass.
We propped up a dumbass.
And we would never get rid of it. And then as soon as you saw that part, we were watching it.
Yeah.
We propped up this dude who just immediately started persecuting the Buddhists.
Absolutely.
Started.
Yep.
His wife was a fucking monster who was like, good, I'm glad they're burning themselves.
Yes. His wife and
it
his
was-
brother.
Yeah, they were just morons.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we couldn't back off because we were like, it's still better than communism.
Yep.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Ho Chi Minh was kind of fucking cool.
Right. He liked us at the beginning.
Yeah,
He
he was
wasn't
like-
totally into this thing. And then
Yeah.
Yeah. It's tough. It's like
but he
assistant-
became,
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
assistant manager.
Now,
energy.
did you know a lot of guys that were in Vietnam?
I knew a few. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was a kid doing the whole thing,
Yeah.
And I remember as a little kid, you'd watch, it was on the news every day at 5 and 6 o'clock, you'd see the footage from Vietnam. So it was like such a part. It wasn't like I was shocked because I wasn't from the generation before that. That was all I knew. I was 7, 8 years old, 9 years old. But I remember seeing footage of Vietnam all the time on TV and the news, and it was just a constant thing. And I remember one time in class, we were talking about Vietnam. This is probably 71, or maybe 70. And the teacher or the kids were going, yeah, Vietnam is bad. And this girl in our class starts screaming and crying because her brother got killed in Vietnam. And so I knew probably 3 guys, older guys, that didn't hang out with me, but I mean, I knew 3 guys that were Marines in Vietnam that got wounded, that came home, and they all had those cliche Marine personalities. I mean, Vietnam vet personality. The army jacket by themselves, the big beards when they're home, heavy drinker, heavy smoker, prone to outbursts, but still good guys. Like they were guys we like, they weren't like people hung out with them and talked to them, but they had that other side to them, partly from being in the war, partly from what they did, partly from what Vietnam did, and partly from their reaction when they came home. It wasn't like you walk around, people weren't going, thank you for your service either,
Yikes. That stinks.
Yeah, so I knew a few guys,
Yeah, that was the thing we were talking about. O'Connor brought this up. We were talking about last night. He's like, imagine today's fucking college student. Imagine
Jesus
being
Christ.
a dude who got drafted and had to go live through fucking hell. And then you get home and one of these fuckers throws like a bag of piss at you and is like, baby killer.
Fuck you.
Like, yeah.
Right. Oh my God.
That's when I would join the Ohio National Guard and I would head down to Kent State and say, "Fuck you guys."
Yeah, true.
That's yeah. But it was interesting that they all did have that personality.
Yeah.
Even the guys I knew, guy across the street, my friend's brother, was a Vietnam vet that didn't fight. He was a airplane mechanic, and even he was screwed up.
Fucked up from it.
Yeah.
My uncle was a Marine, and he never talks about it. Ever. Like literally never talks about it. One night he and I got drunk and he opened up about it.
Really?
And it was wild. He saw a fucking Chinook get hit and just spun. Dudes flew everywhere. I mean, it was. Now my other uncle was in Vietnam, and he is a little more. He's a little more sociopath, like psycho. That's like, I killed a guy.
Yeah.
And I was like, how was that? And it was just me and him, and he goes, it's fucking incredible. I was like, yo.
I told you I knew a guy who was a sniper, and he was saying, he's like, you get addicted to the feeling of killing people. And he's like, and he was a nice dude. He's like, I didn't have like ill will towards people, but he's like, I like would watch people eat dinner, and as soon as they finish, right in the head. He's like, by like the 12th one, he's like, you get like a god complex, and you're like, I'm ended. This is done.
Damn.
Yeah.
So you just watch people hang out.
The guy in Vietnam, I've told you this before. It was like a 90-degree trail, and you couldn't see around the corner. So he's walking one way. A Viet Cong was walking up the path. He said they literally bumped into each other in the jungle. And then it was just a race to see who could get who could get their gun out faster, and he got his out.
Woo!
First.
Jesus Christ!
Now he's still. I mean, and then he got fucked up. He got hit with a rocket propelled grenade, and he blew. His nipples missing, his calves off. Yeah, and he had to lay there because they're in the middle of a firefight. He had to lay there for 3 hours on the jungle floor, like, I'm dead. I'm dying for sure. Yeah. I mean, he's a hero.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, and is it that different from war? Like, my father was in Korea and Korean and war, and he said the most disturbing part was, which is still chilling, that the lieutenants or the officers would nightly bring in the Korean prisoners and beat the living shit out of them, and always like, "Hey, Brooklyn, you want a piece?" And he's like, "No, thanks." And they would just like just torture the guys, just beat them for fun. So it was already starting to lose the. The glamour of World War II. And then, but Vietnam is a different. Like, I feel like this setup, even though it happened in World War II, it happens in every war. The setup of search and destroy is what fucked them all up. Because here you are, you grow up in the 50s, you're watching these movies, you have a little bit, even if you're not innocent, you know you're capable of, but you're still. And then suddenly you're in the middle of this thing where they go, no, you have to burn all these Hamlets because, like I said, the Hamlet program, the Vietnamese took over the Hamlets. So they go, and the Vietnamese are in there. And whether they are or not, they're in enough where you're like, okay, it's them or me. And so you're torturing all these peasants out of their house, torching their village.
Burning their fucking
house. That's the strategy.
How long did they do that for?
Strategy.
How long did they do that for?
The whole time.
The whole entire
from
burn villages down?
Yeah.
From 1963. And they said even, that's what Morley Safer was, the guy from 60 Minutes. I always thought, this fucking annoying guy, But meanwhile, he was a reporter, and they filmed in 1965 torching of a Hamlet. 1965, early in the war. And that's when everyone started protesting the Vietnam War. Because they watched on TV, they're like, wait, this is like liberating France. What's going on here? It was just all these peasants running, they're torching the house and shooting the pigs. Like, that was on the national news.
Jesus.
On the evening news.
That's what you were watching?
Well, I don't remember that, but I'm saying, but people shocked the whole country. That's when the protest began.
Because we were the good guys. We were always the good guys.
But we were always the good guys. We showing it like, check us out. Never like, boo, or like, fuck.
No, the news was like, hey,
this is crazy.
That's because the news was doing their fucking job.
True, yeah.
And they're like, here's what's actually happening.
No, right. They just shot. And Morley Safer had to leave. Like, they were threatening him because they were saying he took it out of context. He didn't, which he probably
he took
did
it
too.
Out of context.
Well, I'm saying they weren't saying that they had been getting shot, like Marines had gotten shot from that village.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm saying it wasn't like, it's not just us evil and everybody else is good either. But I mean,
no, they were bad.
It was a stupid strategy.
See, this is what happened. And it was crazy because the French had just done it. before us.
Yes.
So they did this thing called pacification, where they were like,
Right.
they tried to do the social set. Like they were like, we're going to help build your rice paddies up. We're going to give you food. We're going to build schools. And during the day it worked. And then at night the Viet Cong would come in, take the food,
That's
take
right.
the fucking guns,
That's right.
hide guns in the villages, hide weapons,
Yes.
hide soldiers. So then during the day they'd come back and they'd just keep getting supplies, and they'd
Yeah.
do raids from the villages with the weapons and shit the French gave them.
Yeah.
And then so the French would come back and be like, we know you're harboring communists.
Oh, Jesus.
And they would burn the fucking village down.
Yeah.
And then we did that. We did the
And we
exact
did the
same
same
thing.
And then under the thing of like, we don't want communism to spread, which is funny to be like, we don't want you want to be free, guys. Trust me. And you're like burning villages down. Like, trust me, this is better.
And I think we did the same thing kind of in Afghanistan, right?
Mhm.
In Iraq, where it
Instilling
would be like,
democracy.
we're going to give you guys money, work with us. And then the Taliban comes in at night and is like, puts a gun to their head and is like,
Well,
you work with us.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's the whole problem with everything, right?
Yeah.
If you go to some, if the cops go to a neighborhood bar, the only analogy I ever use and everything is a neighborhood bar. And but if they go to a neighborhood bar and go, listen, we want you guys to do a couple of troublemakers in here, and the troublemakers are in there, or they're outside waiting for these guys to leave.
yeah.
They're not there. They're only going to be there part. They know you're going.
Yeah.
You're not there to stay forever. So it
Yeah.
always ends up screwing you.
Yeah. And if we don't kill them at night, they're going to come get fucking beheaded.
Well,
by
Isn't
the
that what happened in
communists.
Vietnam? I
Yeah.
mean, once they took over,
Exactly.
they Cambodia, all that stuff, they just destroyed. Genocide got rid of everybody that bugged them. And everybody with a pair of glasses. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean,
It's like
how'd you get those?
They literally went, well, just anybody who's sort of
Yeah.
fancy themselves intellectual. It was like it's like the army came in and literally just rampaged through Bushwick, Williamsburg, and Greenpoint in the past 3 years.
Nice.
And just said,
Hey, I
everybody
get it.
here everybody here who's been to a show at a bookstore. Just line up.
Just burn the bookstores.
Yeah, it's I mean, that's the thing that's why I never really got into Vietnam. I like the Civil War and World War II, where it's like
Yeah.
it's kind of noble.
Right. It seems
And then Vietnam is the first one that's like
well, it's so, but even Korea was like a harbinger. It's all like
Korea,
so
yeah.
psychological, right?
Yeah.
And I had another uncle who fought in World War II and fought with Audie Murphy. Do you know who Audie Murphy was?
No, who's that?
He's the most famous World War II hero.
Okay.
Like they made him a movie star. He wasn't a good actor, but he was this legendary World War II. My uncle happened to be in his unit.
Oh wow.
And he said that all the hype, to show you the difference in the war, all the hype about him was true. He goes, this guy was the bravest. He goes, he was so crazy. He'd run right into battle.
Yeah.
They were at Anzio. They were at Battle of the Bulge. All these places. He goes, he would just run right into battle.
He's nuts.
and in those days, they'd celebrate. Now
Like,
in
man,
World War
that's a
II,
hero.
even any movie about Iraq, there's still an undertone of darkness. All the World War II movies, they're like, hey, there's no problem here.
Yeah. Kick their ass.
Yeah, like
that's
this guy's
funny.
great. It had like a positive
Like
tone to it.
John Basilone.
What's
guy?
that?
He was in the Pacific. There's a rest stop in New Jersey, like one of the first rest stops. That's what he got out of it.
Oh,
He got the Medal of Honor.
That's awesome.
He fucking, it's in the Pacific, and like he goes wild, picks up his gun without the fucking
right.
heat pad, just mows down the jet, and then he goes home. So they put him on a USO tour
Yeah.
to sell fucking bonds,
Yeah.
and he's like, no, I need to go back and fight.
Yeah.
So then he goes to Iwo Jima and is like, I'm gonna do that gun thing again,
What?
and he died.
Oh no.
Yeah, he
Bust out the
died,
trick.
but he got yeah,
boy. Like
was
he
a-
does a strike choice. Yeah.
he fucking
Yeah, my
But
mom's
you gotta
cousin did
rest
3
stop.
tours in Vietnam. He
Really?
did one, and he's like, send me back, and did another, and he's
Whoa.
like, give me one more.
Who did it?
My mom's cousin.
Wow.
He did
3
He
tours?
did 2 more. He
3. Wow.
did 3. He was like, fuck it, I'm not going back. I'm gonna do it.
And what did he end up doing after the war?
I saw him like spazzing, fighting an arcade owner on the boardwalk one time.
that was
Oh.
Charlie.
Good man. He's a
that
good
was
man.
Charlie, dude.
Dude, he was.
But that's the whole point. Yeah.
He was with my mom the one time when they were younger, and he was sleeping in the car, and some guy like screamed something at my mom, and he like popped up and just got out and beat the shit out. They were in traffic on the highway.
Yeah.
Beat the
Sure.
shit out of the guy and throw him on the side of the road. And he's like, come on, let's go.
Imagine that guy. He sees a woman in a car. He's like, "Fuck you."
The guy
Then the
sits
guy
up.
pops up.
Yeah, dude, just pops
That's
up.
a Vietnam
Yeah,
Fresh
vet.
from
Vietnam
3 tours. I think it was like 74. Just pops up like, what?
Can you imagine 3 tours? I mean, I mean, 2 tours is crazy, but at least you feel like during the second tour, the guy's like, fuck, what did I say yesterday?
Yeah.
But if you go for 3, that means you're like in all the way.
Yeah.
That's when I told the dude I was talking to, was my ex-father-in-law. I was telling him about my mom's cousin. He's like, oh, that guy just likes killing people.
Yeah.
And I was like, maybe.
I mean, he probably just. There's also the guys.
Everyone's got their thing.
You go there. True. You go there, and then you go home, and you're like, I can't be home after.
Yeah.
You're just in the fucking jungle.
Yeah.
Killing
Yes.
people. Now you got to go pretend to be a human.
Yep.
Yeah. It's like
Yeah.
when you get off the road for a long time.
Yeah.
Say it happens to cops. It happens to cops to a lesser
Did it
degree.
with a friend. What's that? Yeah.
It happens to cops too.
Yes.
They get addicted to that adrenalized state and they go home. They're like, this sucks.
Sure.
And they stay there forever.
And
Get fat.
but the other thing with Vietnam, which I've watched a lot of those YouTube guys where they interview, and you see the similarities in them eventually. And one of them is that they said they got screwed. First of all, just imagine this: supposed to be the country sending all this money for aid. Several of them said the sea rations were terrible. He goes, we looked at the date on some of them. They were Korean and World War II.
Yikes.
That's how old the sea rations were.
Jesus.
That they given to the troops at supposedly the richest time in our history. And the other one is the M14. They said the M16 got more guys killed when they switched to the M16 because Westmoreland wanted, or one of these guys it was like a vanity project. The M14 wouldn't jam in the mud. The M16 jammed, and they said guys would just be getting killed, bayoneted to death because it would jam and you couldn't unjam it.
Oh, fuck.
And the M14 the early gun was better.
That sucks.
Yeah. America really fucked up. I don't like it.
But yeah,
The whole thing
was
bums
just
me out.
Yeah,
And then each president had an opportunity to fucking end it.
yeah, that's right.
And they all just keep fucking dragging it out.
But that's what I mean. That's what I'm saying about that state. Kennedy,
Yeah. He was close to ending it.
he was, but he wasn't.
Well, they
You know what I mean?
made
Like-
sure he didn't.
And they said, and this guy Van was talking to Henry Cabot Lodge, who was the ambassador, all the guys who were close to Kennedy. And it was just one of those things where it's like, just at the last minute, it's like any other decision you've seen in any power person, where you're like, everybody has this logical argument, and then they go, no, I think this is better.
Yeah.
And you're like, what? Why? You don't even give us a reason. And he never give us a reason.
There was
there any kind of economic advantage that was clear?
I don't think so.
Really? They didn't
I don't
even
think there was
make
any.
any. Yeah, I guess there was
No.
nothing really there.
I mean, there was
Babes,
rubber. No, there was
babes.
rubber.
Babes.
Yeah.
All the shit that was there was gone when we left.
True.
Yeah.
Rubber, coconuts, all the rice, it was all gone. I mean, we fucking killed it.
Damn, that sucks.
I mean, Agent Orange. I mean, when you think about it,
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Agent Orange killing all the people. They said their levels of whatever dioxin were 3 times anybody else by the time we left, and all the troops. I mean, doing it to your own troops is just crazy. I mean, that's the height of immorality. You know, to just the guys that are there fighting, and you're just like, yeah, well, you know, it's like no, they're the ones you have to really try to be a little more careful with. The opposite of what you're doing. It was really a weird situation, you know.
Also, the French were using napalm too.
They were before us.
Yeah, they were. We did everything they did.
Sounds like a French
the
word.
exact
Napalm.
same thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what that is?
Yeah, that
Napalm's
fucking
just
was
gel.
Yeah, isn't it like petroleum gel and they light it on fire and you spread it if you touch it.
You
put
don't
water
have
on
to
it.
light it on fire. It just goes on your body. It burns.
Yeesh. And water makes it worse, right? Because if you take a grease fire, put water on it, it gets worse. Yeah, it stinks. And I mean, but France really wanted Vietnam, so
Well,
They
they
loved
had it
it.
before that.
Yeah.
they wanted it back. They had it, they lost it. They're like, I think we can get this back.
They want their baby back.
Started
But
spreading
what
some
is-
fire on people.
Yeah. What is it
Hold on.
about Vietnam that's so? Because we apparently wanted it too. We went in there in the mid-50s and we couldn't leave. You ever go to a party and you're like, I gotta leave. This party's over.
Oh yeah.
And it's like,
It's
and
like, you know what? Yeah, I
gotta
guess
get
I will
up.
do some coke.
You're saying it
I
was
guess
2
I will
a.m. It
live
was 2
here.
And
a.m.
you end
in
up going,
Vietnam.
if only I had left at 11 o'clock like I planned to. That's Vietnam.
This probably is just a psychological thing. It's like you want to be the best general. You start losing. You're like, fuck. We got this. We got this. And it's like, no. We should have this. Hear me out. This is my passion project.
Yeah.
This is my baby.
Yeah. I mean, that's the other thing. Everybody was just about, the military, like their job is to get more money for the military.
Mhm.
How can you get more money if you're not in a war, you know?
So how did what do you like? How does this thing progress? What do you?
Yeah.
How does it end? What's going on?
Vietnam?
Yeah.
I mean, it ended when we left. It was the most, it was really, they're lucky it was the mid 70s. It was like 75 that famous rooftop
Yeah,
thing.
Saigon. Yeah.
They're lucky because by then everybody it was like the age of apathy when I was a teenager. People were just into drugs, dancing, and it was just a very hedonistic time. People were done all the protesting that happened in the 60s. People were done by the 70s. You know what I mean? And they're just like, yeah. And so when people left, there wasn't even outrage. It was like, oh, that was awkward.
That was a bummer.
That was
Damn.
just people were just like, whoa.
Yeah.
It just
Coke and
looked so bad.
disco, yeah.
And you feel bad for all the
fuck it.
people that all the
Yikes.
Vietnamese that were still helping us by the end were fucked.
Yeah. Like that
They got
famous
killed.
that helicopter on the roof.
The helicopter on the
That
roof.
picture. That's a long line.
Yeah,
And that's the last chopper.
that's right.
Those boys
Last
are
shot.
staying, and that's
That's
a
right.
fucking negative time.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
When that
they-
chopper takes off and you're like next in line, like fuck.
I've
Should've
had
got
that.
here
I've had a
5
similar
minutes
experience.
earlier.
I was at Longwood Gardens waiting for a shuttle to go see the shuttles. I was like the last guy. I had to wait like 15 more minutes. I was like, motherfucker.
Yeah,
I
I know
don't know what happened. It settled down. It's better now.
No, it's not.
That's not tearing. The damage is done.
I mean, that's the thing. The power shift immediately,
Yeah.
and all the people, like when you think about the people right now in your life that you were like, fuck you, and then if suddenly they're in power, they go, where is this son of a bitch? Astoria? Where does he live again?
Yeah.
And then you just hope they
Well,
accidentally mistake you for Mike Feeney and kill him.
yeah, but what's it like? So you grew up watching Vietnam, and
Yeah.
then what was it like for you to see like the Iraq War and all? Because the older I get, the more I'm like, I already saw this before.
I believed that there were weapons of mass destruction.
They got you too.
They got me. I believed it all the way. I said, there's got to be weapons of mass destruction. It wouldn't be this, they wouldn't be going to this extreme after Vietnam.
They wouldn't be
if it
our
wasn't
leaders.
true. They're not going to be fooled twice.
Wouldn't be this diabolical.
I said they can't be that stupid, or diabolical. Either way, I said there's no way there's not weapons of mass destruction.
There wasn't.
I mean, I was a kid.
Me and the Senate believed this.
Yeah, you and Hillary Clinton.
All of us, yeah.
I was
Only a few didn't.
I was a kid, and it was 2003.
Yeah.
So I was fresh off 9/11. I was an 8th grade fucking patriot.
I had a bone to
dude.
pick. Yeah.
I was pretty
yeah.
much a troop at
Yeah,
this
they
point.
had you. They had you.
4 years later, I'd be going to West Point.
Yeah, they had you.
I was ready.
Yeah.
But yeah, Vietnam,
warm my seat up.
Iraq, I was pumped. I was
Yeah.
watching you remember when you
I like the
watched the
fact that he
news?
thinks you get into West Point. That's a hard school to get into.
I got in.
He was in.
You did?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm
I
very
went.
impressed. You did?
Yeah, well, I quit right away, but I went.
Oh, that's impressive.
Yeah,
What do you have to get on your fucking SATs to get into a place
I
like
played
that?
football. That helped.
Oh.
Yeah, they got me in for that.
You know what's interesting about Vietnam, which I realized we all had army jackets in the mid-70s, early 70s
Oh.
to mid-70s. Everybody wore the green army jacket. Like that was the biggest style. And it was Vietnam vet. It was Vietnam clothes. So even though nobody really welcomed them home, that was a really important part of the style.
That's funny because people dress like construction workers now here.
Yeah,
So it's
That's right.
kinda like, yeah, it's weird.
yeah. You dress like somebody who works harder than you.
True.
That's right. But yeah.
So did you get to witness like dudes coming home and getting kind of treated like shit?
No, but I definitely, like I said, in class, that girl's brother died.
Yeah.
And like I said, I knew the Vietnam vets, but they didn't get treated like shit in my neighborhood. I mean, but because everybody's like, oh, like I went to Vietnam. It was
Yeah,
like
it's fucked up.
It was a consequential thing. I think it was mostly like at protests or at the airports. But I mean, in general,
Was it looked at as kind of like a shame? Like you went to
no, not a shame. But there was something like it was a serious, like everybody knew, like these guys went through something that was a little different from like World War
Sure.
II and stuff.
That's how
And
it
they,
is.
and they had long hair. So even the patriotic people were like, this guy's all, like,
Oh fuck.
because they had
Yeah.
long hair. But they were, they were great guys. I mean,
Yeah.
some of them were really
Yeah.
great guys, Like
That's
they weren't
kinda-
that fucked up, but they get wasted at night. But everybody, in those days, it was different. Like, they weren't like, oh, that guy drinks because he's a Vietnam vet. People were getting fucked up all the time.
Yeah.
Everybody was smoking weed. Everybody had long hair. Everybody had army jackets. And everybody was just kind of insane. So it was
Sounds awesome.
Yeah.
It was kind of awesome. So there was something different, at least around then at that time,
I need to bring it back.
But
Bring it back.
I need to get way more militant in my weed smoking army jacket. I'm
Yeah.
fucking up right now.
It's funny to be fucked up and smoking weed. Like,
It is, yeah.
you're like, yeah, I'm just dark.
You're military.
I need to be like,
It is weird that our biology rejects burning villages on some level.
Yeah.
If you do it, it fucks you up.
it's tough coming back.
Fucks
oh
up your
my
mind.
God. But I mean, the tragedy is that they That was literally the strategy that they were told to do.
Yeah.
So what does that do to you? You're listening to the people that you don't make those decisions. It's a chain of command.
Yeah.
And they're saying burn the villages.
You can't really half-ass it, really. It's
Oh
like
my
set,
God.
like, one thing on
I read
fire.
a horrible book. It was just witness guys that had done atrocities in Vietnam. It was just an oral history
Ugh.
from guys that have done things in Vietnam. And I'll tell you, I remember one quote somebody said, "You'll never be surprised. You're going to be shocked." Some guy was talking to some other reporter or somebody who was going over there, and he goes, You're going to be shocked at the cruelty of a 19-year-old American boy, like, and what they'll be capable of by the time they leave."
I mean, that's
and the guy
thing.
goes, "That's what happened." Yeah,
That's the thing. Every one of these wars, every one of these atrocities is 19-year-old, 20-year-old boys they've been killing people for a year.
sure.
They're gonna go wild.
Yeah, once one of your friends gets shot, it's like, all right, well, fuck
Yeah,
this.
we'd be the same fucking way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course.
You know, I mean, to varying degrees. Some people would love it more than other people. We'd all be the same way.
Yeah, you would love it.
What, war?
Yeah, no, committing atrocities.
Yeah, right. I'd hate it.
You would be the
I hate it.
worst.
Fuck me up. I'd be in a long hair and a jacket so quick. Just like, what the fuck's going on? Yeah, I don't know. That would be. I mean, you know, because there's like, I think they just gas you up enough to get you over there, and then it's like your friend gets shot.
Or you
and
get
then it's
fucking
just like,
drafted, dude.
True. Yeah.
Think of that. You
Forgot
get
about
fucking
that.
drafted
Yeah.
into that. You're just
Yeah, you're in college. Like, even the guys who just were like, I decided to drop out for one semester. They go, the minute I dropped out, they got me. Like, they were watching people
Yeah.
to make sure the minute they got him, they're like, get that fucking guy. They're probably like finding out their grades are like, and get this, he's going to drop out.
he's not gonna do
Yeah,
anything.
my uncle played basketball just to get out of it. He played basketball at Westchester to get out of it. I
Really?
think, yeah.
Who did?
Michael Jack. He was like, he was of the perfect age to get drafted, and he just hooped it up.
My dad graduated college or high school in '74,
Mhm.
so he got a draft card, but he was.
My dad was too
I
young.
always make fun of him for being a draft out.
He got a draft.
He got a draft card. He didn't get drafted, but
Yeah, 74.
the
was
war
all-
ended.
People trying to get out of there.
Yeah.
the war ended. But it was funny it's fun to make fun
He
of him.
probably got the last year of the draft. The draft
Yeah.
probably ended in
Oh,
75.
that must have been
Yeah.
so nice.
And you see,
So
like,
it was
young-
cool. It was cool to be anti-war when you were young.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, that was like the hip thing.
Oh, so you're saying like the sanctioned station shows were just kind of
Yeah, like most of, you knew like they were squares, even though we were little
Yeah.
kids. We knew
sorry.
they're squares.
You're good.
so the shows of that time were supporting a horrific war and like a horrific kind
But
of
they weren't really
government thing.
supporting
Yeah.
it, but
now,
you just kind of knew
no way.
that was like the way it was in
Yeah.
some weird way. You could sense like that was it.
There was a school bus driver that was a Vietnam guy,
Really?
and he was fired. He would get fucking fired.
That's a good
He'd
bus
start
driver, yeah.
Screaming at people.
That's a good bus show.
Yeah, that is a good bus driver.